We are going through one in a lifetime opportunity. It may not feel like that. It can feel a lot confusing watching what's happening, like the stocks are falling, like it's a huge recession. Oil prices are running up, like, okay, we focus there isn't going to be no recession, right? So it's like, okay, all of them are betting against each other. Then you see the rates are still high, saying, okay, we still have inflation at this range. Gold, a safe haven, is falling to the downside. So you're like, okay, stocks are falling, saying a recession is here. At that time, gold should be going up, but gold is also falling. You're actually watching a lot of contradictory things happening. Why? Because these things happen once in a long while. When that cyclical thing comes in, you need to make sure you're positioned well enough. And that's where this altcoin season is coming in. It's been a long time since we had one, and it seems like we are about to go back into one. So how many altcoins do you have? And are they about to join this altcoin season? Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% in this world. Right now, when you look at the crypto market, there can be a lot of different things happening, especially when you actually see the price being super volatile, going up and then dropping like crazy, right? These are short-term charts showing you how volatile the market was. When Gary was saying that Bitcoin is not a security, this is what you're literally watching. The price going up and then dropping like crazy, not continuing to the upside. So when you zoom out, this is exactly what you see. You're actually getting a taste of the price wanting to go back to the upside. You're actually watching that. But what's slowing it down? The dollar is pushing that to the upside. Remember, this retracement levels which we have talked about is now in play. We are getting close to that 107.45 or the next one close to 109. Those are going to be some painful levels. If you are in assets which are trending lower, it's going to be confusing. But if you are a guy who is riding the XRP, trading the XRP, watching the price action of XRP, now you are like, okay, I've seen this movie before. We had similar patterns inside the XRP before, and when it did break, we knew how the price actually reacted. Now, remember, all these can be a long-term pattern where it can be a little bit weird. It takes some long time before it breaks higher, or it can also be a short-term structure. Once you do this breakout, you grind back to the upside. Great. So what are we really looking at right now? We are watching that the price really want to break through this range. Bulls are trying to push it through. So that's a 4-hour chart. So when you zoom in, this is what you actually see. I'm like, okay, they tried to break it to the upside. They kind of managed to break it out and stay there for some time. But then with all that happening in Bitcoin, the price came back down. Now it's trying to bounce off. That can be a great sign if we do manage to break above 0.51. If we do that, now you can actually say like, okay, there is something evolving and this thing is coming to us for sure, and XRP is going to participate in that heavily. Why would I say that? Because as you zoom out, you do get all these information from the market showing you, yeah, they tried to push the price downside, but the buyers are not giving it up. Each time the price goes lower, they are buying like crazy. They are pushing the price to the upside. Then you go look at the trend. The trend is like, okay, I broke to the upside. I'm ranging. I'm trending to the upside. So the daily chart kind of gives you the narrative that, okay, the world is not over yet. You have a lot of opportunity, but there's something I would like to keep your attention to. This time, I won't say it's different, for sure. We have seen this in the history. So if that's what's going to play out here, which is kind of a little bit of stagflationary, even where the rates were really high, the market was crazy, all bad thing, it's going to be bad if you don't understand which assets are moving higher. We actually went through a lot of this, right? If you look at Gifto, it had that breakout. It did move up. We call it out. If you look at Taylor, we did jump in somewhere around $15. We gave you the idea. You look at all of these assets. They're starting to trend higher. Some of them we have been following from some time. And you know what they are doing. They're not actually trending to the downside. They're trending to the upside. They are bursting now. So once you have an idea of which asset is getting more volume and how many of them are preparing for the next big run up, you kind of are positioned well enough. Yeah, not just knowing it, but executing that in your portfolio. That's why we go through a lot of these posts on a regular basis to keep you guys the most updated to make the best decision for your portfolio. Now, we jump in to look at this session saying like, okay, it's actually moving towards that direction. We haven't quite reached there, but we are watching some of these popping. Now, below this neutral level, I would say, okay, it's like most of them are not doing anything. As you creep higher, that's exactly where you actually see these kind of price action. 100% a month, 180% a week, something like this bursting, 250% for a month. These comes in at that time. As you go a little bit higher, you will watch a lot of different coins which are about to break higher, breaking with big or giant candles. Now, yes, it is also true that this is what we are watching in the economy. A lot of things are not lining quickly so that, it's easy to kind of, say, okay, this is what's going to happen. Because now there's a lot happening. Credit downgrades, so nations dump US treasuries. It's going to be something which we have to look up to. We have a rapidly rising interest rate. If you actually look at the yields, you will be surprised. This is what's happening right now. It doesn't look a lot good. Since last week's Fed meeting, 10-year yield note is up 35 basis points. That doesn't look good. I mean, if you're on the other side of the market where you're giving money to the other guy or you're taking money on this side, it doesn't look good, because now on your right side, you're saying people are not going to give me my money back. A lot of defaults are going to come in. On the other side, you're like, I cannot pay my credits. It's going to be really worse. And that's where we're watching some of these crypto moving up and kind of, when we wake up to this crypto right now and look at what Gensler was doing in that market, it's pretty bad. The way he responded just shows like, he still don't care about the American blockchain industry. But then when you actually come back and look at what's happening in front of us right now on the 27th of September, SEC officially acknowledges that $1.5 trillion asset manager Templeton is actually going for a spot Bitcoin application. Now, I'm not sure when this is actually going to be approved, because we are actually watching like maybe they're going to go into a government shutdown. We really don't know. So we are actually waiting to see when that's coming in, because most of these dates are like October 15th, October 17th. So either they have to approve that or, deny or delay that. So it's actually coming in. And then when you actually listen to something like this, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of details. If you actually focus on minute details here, you're actually getting a lot of information in the sense of how confident they are and what they are getting from the politicians, the Congress. So that makes me a lot confident. Now, if you want to discuss these things on the bigger forum, say individuals like Pat, we're actually trying to get his attention so that, for us, this is really important, but we really don't know how Pat would actually feel like. So if you are on the Twitter, try putting in comments, tagging Pat, highlighting the fact that, look at this. Now, he is running a media company, and I believe the way it is going forward, maybe next 3 to 5 years or 10 years, that's going to be one of the biggest media companies in the world. And if they can take this matter on hands and discuss through that, it's going to get widespread massively. Big guys are watching those channels, so we kind of get to spread this message across. Now, let's actually look at the price action. What are we really watching now? We all understand the fact that, yeah, we do have a lot of volatility on an intraday chart, but then when you actually come back down, it boils down to this thing. We haven't actually done much. We are still here. If you have patience and you're looking at a daily or a weekly chart, you're like, okay, this is the trend line. We're getting close to that trend line support. So volatility is fine. But before that candle is over on the weekly, on the daily side, we're watching that it actually literally it is pushing to the upside. It came to the resistance, got rejected. Great. But while you're trending to the downside, when you get an inverted hammer, what does that actually mean? Bulls are entering back into that asset. They are trying to push the price back up. So now if you actually think about this and like, okay, that's happening on Bitcoin, this is happening in the dollar, which is crazy. I mean, there's a lot of other currencies which are getting hit hard. Say you go look at different currency pairs like the US yen, it's like boom. It's back to the highs where if you actually go on a monthly chart, you'll understand what the hell is happening here. You're actually in a territory where you are now, which is something like, crazy about 1998, or you're going all the way back to the 90s. That means something bad is happening. The credit cycle is actually at that point where you're going to see a bigger, massive credit crunch. Now, that's one of the reasons why, I've been going through a lot of this, trying to give you guys a right perspective, to educate you on a lot of different things. It takes time. Believe me, it takes time to actually go through in detail about some of these issues, which I believe is so important for you as a normal human being in the market to listen to. See, if you actually look at all this, like the credit cycle is coming into that area. So people are like, okay, what does that actually mean? Say, when you actually see something like this saying, okay, Disney is dropping like crazy. I'm like, okay, it is true. But this is also true. Historically, when you reach at this point in time, you bounce back up. Maybe it takes like few years, but you're not actually going to the downside. So if you look at this asset class and say like, okay, I'm looking for an opportunity, I have a long term, maybe this is one of them. If the company is not going bankrupt, that can be one of them. Then if you are on the social media and you're watching the Game of Trades, kind of highlighting the fact, warning, yeah, it is a warning, that banks are tightening lending standards. Imagine in Canada, even if you are top 10% earning guys, you cannot kind of get a housing loan right now. The mortgage, you're out of that market. So what does this actually mean? That's where, I'm going through all this, trying to give you guys a perspective about, yeah, this has happened in the history. And if you take time to understand that, this is how it plays out. So if you are there looking at all this and asking like, okay, I want to learn more about these. Say, when you actually watch, now this is something which you have to know. Asset managers are saying the market is going to go up. Their long positions are through the sky. Short positions are also through the sky. And I'm like, wow, whoa, isn't that interesting? But then you're like, okay, who's right, who's wrong? That is where we need to actually look at the market in the historical terms. We go look at what possibly can come into the picture. And that's where you get the advantage. Because once you understand that, okay, this is the market cycle, and there is a lot happening inside this. Because this is something I haven't seen a lot of people covering. A lot of people come discussing while we do the one-on-one session, when people ask like, Danny, I want to actually buy 10 crypto projects. And I'm like, okay, how many crypto assets do you already have? They're like, I have 7. I'm like, great. Which are those assets? They say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, okay, great. What does this third one do? I mean, for me, that's new. And they're like, I'm not sure. I'll have to check back and come back to you. I'm like, that doesn't sound good. So if you are to choose a crypto asset, first, this thing comes into the picture. Then you look at, does it really make sense in this aspect? Now, yes, there is a lot of things which you have to go through. What we are doing in charts is this. But in the group, while we do the one-on-one session, we actually go through all of this, looking at different aspects of that project. Because at least 4 to 5 factors of this should be clear to you before you buy a crypto asset. That's where XRP kind of stands out. When you actually go through all this process, it ends up one of the best assets in this market. Now, it is true, you'll have to actually go through a lot of this and understand like, okay, what does all these adoption mean? When MoneyGram comes out and say like, yeah, we're actually coming out with a non-custodial wallet, you have to actually understand it's kind of it's like a self-sovereign wallet, right? You own it, but it brings in a lot of responsibility for sure. But when all this is happening in the market, that means a guy like MoneyGram has access to different parts of the world and a ton of customers. As soon as they understand they can take custody of their money, it's going to be big. Say in India, you can actually keep, I think, more than 50,000 rupees in your home. I'm like, that's stupid. No more than 10 lakh in gold in your home. That's stupid. You're like, they're literally saying you got to keep all this in the bank. What if the bank goes bankrupt? They don't care, right? So in different parts of the world, it's different. In North America, you can keep whatever you want, house, because it's yours, right? It's legal and you can keep it at your home. It's just a safety concern. But the question here is, if this actually comes in, no one cares. You can literally hold whatever you want to in those wallets. No one is going to actually take it away from you. It's your responsibility, just like the gold. So that means adoption is coming to that area. As soon as you see this happening and people taking profits from this range, it would be a lot to actually digest in. But understand, this is coming in our direction. There is no doubt in that. Now, at that same time, if you're like, okay, we understand that the Bitcoin dominance is trying to break to the downside, which kind of, go back and agree with this perspective, saying like, okay, we are not yet there, but we are almost reaching that direction. That's great. I mean, if it's me, I'm like, okay, if Bitcoin dominance is breaking to the downside in this range and coming back down, maybe 44, maybe 42, wow, it would be great. Now, it possibly will come back to 48.35. That's like, not a big deal from where we are, but it's also going to give some of these alts room to run. Even 1% drop in the Bitcoin dominance is going to push a lot of assets to the upside. That's where you go in looking at this and you're like, okay, there is a possible breakout coming here on the RSI, showing you the fact that, yeah, we are at that range of breakout. Price has not yet done that. So usually RSI gives you something is coming. For me, that's the idea with RSI. And based on my experience, I'm like, okay, RSI is about to retest this and bounce through that. And at the same time, you will watch the price breaking to the upside. That is where this comes into the picture. That is where you watch a lot of alts popping left and right. You don't want to end up chasing these candles, green giant candles. You don't want to actually do that. What you do want to do is to get positioned in assets before they actually pop. This asset initially was at $15, went up to 44, came back down to 27. We had all those calls. In yesterday's video, we did share all those, giving you the right idea. Now, if you haven't taken time to listen to these last 3 videos at least, you're missing out on a lot of educational part. Not the hype stuff, it is real education for you to be prepared well enough in advance before this actually starts. Because once the market starts popping, you really think like, okay, what should I do here? What should I do here? This is going up. Should I sell? This is going down. What should I do? That's where you need a lot of experience, knowledge, and wisdom. That's why we are trying to go through this and give you guys the right idea. And if you're like, okay, I need that on a regular follow-up manner in a lot of different assets, look at the Patreon. This can help you. If you are looking at this and saying like, okay, I have 50 assets, I have 30 assets, I have 20 assets, I want to reduce this, I want to give my portfolio the best opportunity you have in the market, and you want to do a one-on-one session where you go discuss through the portfolio and my thought process on how it looks like now and what you can possibly do, this is going to help you there. So you can follow the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. If you received value, smash that like button for me. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.